never going to have an educational visit to take one. I'm never thrilled. I can't tell you how excited we were, bounding along the Millennium Bridge to see if it still wobbles. It doesn't. But we walked in a beautiful view. It's amazing. You just look around and all the history of London you can see on that bridge. It's amazing. We're walking towards this museum, and basically it's like a wall of glass. And as we walked into this building, we started to look around this place. I started thinking, oh look, there's that! Oh look, come look at this! And I'd explain it to them. Sometimes they'd start to get a little bit of it, and sometimes they'd go, no, you couldn't see anything in there, you just tell us and we just have to believe it. And then we went past this wall of pictures, and they looked at them all as separate pictures, but in actual fact they tell the story. And I picked up on the story, and the guy who went through it, that's amazing. They really got excited about it once they could see what it was saying. And there were all sorts of things that sort of really woke up their imagination, so they actually did enjoy tiny minuscule bits of it. But large parts of it, they were bored and rigid. And I could see a painting, which stationary painting, basically a big canvas, and that was it on the wall. So, well, why have they put the damaged stuff out? Why don't they put the good stuff out? So they couldn't get it. It's really interesting. But Dad, the art person, walked past this wall, and it was a mess. You know, there's lots of pens here and there, just difficult that much. So I didn't bother explaining that to my kids. Because it just, what's the point? Well, it's only one of the biggest monasteries in the world, and it covers this entire wall. And when you stand back from it, it blows your head off, because it's the most amazing picture of this pond, all the light reflecting on it. And when you stand back and you look at it, you can see it. It's a bit like this. I've got this book. If you look to that closely, it's like little dogs of paint. And you just want to be able to tell them, if you stand back from it, it's absolutely amazing. You didn't notice it. Just walk straight on. Walk straight past it when we get the decorators in and finish it off. So sometimes we just don't see it. Even when it's right there in front of us, we just don't get it. That's what it must have felt a bit like for these disciples. Before we go any further, let me just explain. You kids will have heard the word disciple. You'll probably have heard the word apostle as well. Have you heard that word as well? Do you know the difference between the two? Because in actual fact, many of the same people refer to with both of those titles at different stages. So, I'm sure Gary understands. Anybody want to mention a question as to what a disciple is? Just a very simple word to describe what a disciple is. Follower. Perfect. Brilliant. That's absolutely perfect. Follower. Excellent. And it says follower in that meaning, doesn't it? So we're followers of Jesus. And that's the word disciple. What's an apostle? Anybody know what an apostle is? Very well. Absolutely brilliant. And in some parts of the Bible, you should know. But at some points of the Bible, Peter, James, and John are called disciples, and then later on they're called apostles. So what happened? Well, it went from being followers to being sent. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. But these were the followers of Jesus. They'd spent time with him, they'd gone around with him, they'd watched what he'd done, they'd heard what he'd said. Some of them, but not many of them, had seen his death. Most of them were too busy hiding, wondering what would happen to them. And they were frightened. And I'll be honest with you, if you lived in a society that was, we had an occupying army living in Lincoln now, and I've been preaching to you for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then they took me out and killed me, you might be a bit worried about it too. What's going to happen to you as a follower? It's easy to judge people and how they're reacting, but in actual fact, if we were there, I think I'd have been hiding too. Anyway, so they followed Jesus, but what's everything done? They were going. The rest of the disciples had stayed together. They gathered together. They were just as confused. They were just as worried about what it all meant, but they stuck together. But these other disciples had got to the stage where they thought, well, come on, it's 3-4 days on. We're now starting to hear all sorts of stories, but, he's not here, so we've got to do something. So they decided to go and get on with their lives. Nothing went. I like that. Because there's times in my life when I've gone off. There's times in my life when I've walked away, where I've been unsure what the future is. And instead of putting myself in the right place to find out, I've gone off with it. But God's always brought me back, and that's what happens here. Wouldn't it be wonderful if it happened this visually to us all each time? That would be amazing. That Jesus actually turned up in physical form and took it back. Wow. But they didn't recognise him. Did anybody watch The Passion? I thought they handled that really well, they did. That bit about not recognising, because it's actually a different person, wasn't it? They'd actually put a different person amongst them. And of course they wouldn't recognise him because he's a different person. But in actual fact it turned out to be Jesus. I thought it was quite a clever way of using that to tell a story. And they didn't recognise him. Yet when he's with them, when they gathered at 12 later on, he appears still with the marks of crucifixion on him. So it's a deliberate ploy by God. You can't say it's not. It's got to be. If he'd still got those marks on him, they'd have recognised him straight away, wouldn't they? If he'd still got scars on his head and his hands, they'd have recognised him straight away. But they didn't. So God did something deliberately concealed himself from them, but was with them. Now that's happened to us, doesn't it? I would imagine to most of us we've had some kind of experience where we've been walking with God and we didn't even know it. Where somebody's been sent to be alongside us, a real person has been there who's been able to understand what we're going through, who's been able to speak into our situation. And in some sense, that's the real presence of Jesus with us. Saying, come on, you don't need to go away, come back, gather with the rest, and wait for something serious to happen. So, what do they do when they hear news? He explains things to them. One of the things I was going to do this morning, I was going to go through all the readings that were relevant to Jesus' suffering and death. I thought it was a really clever story. I thought I'd go for that. But God said no. So I'm not. But he explained to them from the scriptures. You get restless, so we'll do something different with you. I will. Anybody know what I'm saying?